see how that looks, which feels like it's too much in between. So let's increase that back up. Let's try 3.5. That looks a little more appropriate for having the what would be the white edges around the outside edge. So now that we have that, height is 5, so we know we want to shave off 0.25 to give that effective look. So we'll go in here and drop that to 4.75. And again, only dropped from the top. We don't have a bottom layer here, so we're going to have to move this up. So you're taking a quarter and moving it up half a quarter. So we're getting pretty small, but you can cheat. So if you don't want to do the math, you can cheat, and you can come in here and grab a 3D polyline, and you can draw it in between. And turn on my F4. Alright, so not grabbing for some reason. This will happen because what's happened here is I've got objects inside of an object, and it doesn't always like that, and that's more a limitation of my software. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to shift and get my ortho turned on. Okay. All right, and we're going to move that up. So half is going to be 1.25. Or, I'm sorry, 0.125. So now I have that in position. If you look at it in this view, looks good. Got those nice multi-set of windows. So now I'm going to subtract those out. Now once again, if you take a look at this in the shaded view, you can't see them. So we've got to get that subtracted out. But I am going to pull one of these out, or copy it out rather, because we're going to need that again here in a moment. So I'm going to subtract, and I want to keep my base frame of the window. And then I'm going to go through and subtract the actual panes. And now come in and we go into our shades of gray. You can see that we actually have our little window pieces there. Now we have that. Now we need to put window panes in, because you could just leave them open. That works just fine. But if you want to have any type of reflection, any type of glass, you're going to need to change that up. So the first thing we're going to do is reduce this, because right now it's too thick. So we're going to take that down, and I'm going to put it at 0.125. We're going to make that nice and thin, so it'll still have that framing around it, and we'll see how that looks. Now if you're in this view, you're not going to be able to snap onto anything unless you're looking directly at it, and that can be irritating. So that's why we switch views back and forth. At least in AutoCAD we do. I'm going to take this and we're going to copy it. But before I do that, now that I have this, and I think it looks pretty good, I think we've got a nice depth there where it's obvious that there's a piece there, but it doesn't look like the depth is too far off. So I want to start doing a layer. So if you'll notice up here, I have 0 layers. So I'm going to create a layer. So I'm going to go to my layer properties. There's other ways of doing this, but this allows you to have multiple layers done quickly. I'm going to do a new layer, and I'm going to make this one windows. So now that I've got my windows here, I'm going to change the color. I want this to be a blue. And I'm going to click OK. Now, you drag this over, and you have your lock, your freeze, your on. These things turn them off and on and prevent you from being able to make changes once they're in there, so you can't accidentally get things turned off or on. But for our windows, I want transparency. And in most cases, 60 to 70% will do a pretty good job. So let's go ahead and let's start at 60. And now I'm going to add some other layers here because I want my door. I'm going to want to add in a layer for my house body. Let's go with house body, or let's just go with home. House. Then I'm also going to come in and add the roof, and I am going to add the foundation. And you can come in here, so like this one I forgot to capitalize it, and I can go in and I can rename it. Just double click, it opens up that box. Alright, so we want these to be different colors though. We don't want our door to be the same layer color as this. So I'm going to go ahead and make it a brown. Or even, maybe even a green. What green do I like? And you can go in here and you can get far more in depth with color. You can come in here and adjust your colors and get the proper color that you want with it. The color layers in here don't make a huge difference, and that's more, these are more just to identify them and make it easier to work with, but these are not the colors that would show in the final product. This is just black and white for the most part, but we're doing this to help differentiate the parts while we're working on them. So now we want the house, and I don't know, what color should we make the house? Anyone have an opinion on what color? No? Alright, so let's have a purple house. Purple sounds like a fun house color. And then the roof. So the roof, what pretty roof do we want with purple? Let's try yellow. I'll go with a softer yellow there. And then the foundation, I'm going to want that to be gray. So now that I have this, I'm going to assign layer. So we're going to start with this, and you just select it, pull your drop down, and now you'll see this is a blue. And it's not a firm blue, it's a little faded. It could be a little more solid, but that has a lot to do with the fact that I've got the transparency turned on. Now this, we're going to get the house in here, and you've got that purple, and that purple stands out far more. So from there, I'm going to also take the frame, and I'm going to add a new layer for that. And I want my window frame to be white. Let's just give it a basic white. that and apply the layer. You see, it's not quite as bright as our 0 layer, but that's fine. It tells us that we're working with a separate layer. Now I'm going to go ahead and copy my windows here. Again, getting tricky because it doesn't like to always do that where you can see in an object. So what we can also do when it won't do that for us, we'll snap to the outside corner. There we go. Because I accidentally selected circle instead of copy. So we have that there. Another one here. And even though my ortho is on, because the snap is there, the snap will override the ortho. So it puts it right there. Now we have our glass panes. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and group these. So they'll stay together no matter where I move them. It doesn't affect the layer, won't change the effect of the transparency. And you can do that by right-clicking and selecting group, or you can simply type group. And now I have my grouping here. So I've got my other window here, and I'm going to go ahead and delete this block. So we're no longer using that reference position, and we're going to go ahead and copy. And I'm going to drop my window in here with that offset. So we have that sliding window effect. Now, let's look at this and make sure it's all lined up properly. See, we've got our frame here, but it's not sitting quite inside. So you can tell I clicked and I selected the wrong corner for this to line up to. That's one of those things where your front view and your other views are helpful because they can help you identify when you make a mistake lining things up. Something else you can do is you can line it up directly with your window box frame. And now, let's see, we've got that perfect line up here. Oh, it's still off. That is interesting. So, where does our window get off? Am I selecting wrong? Okay. So, it looks like I'm grabbing the wrong box. So, let's try here. And now, I'm going to turn off my ortho, so F8. And I'm going to redo this. So, I want to make sure I'm grabbing the right corner. Free flowing, no ortho that could accidentally throw us off, and click there. Go back to the front view. There. See, now we're all lined up perfectly. No sitting off at angles. But when we come in and look at our realistic view or into our shaded view, and see now we're catching an error because this is transparent when it shouldn't be. So we're going to come back into our layers and we're going to see, okay, so I accidentally have all of this stuff at 60% transparency. I don't want any transparency. So we're going to turn all of that off. So we just drop that back to 0. Window frame is not glass. And there we have that, and that should update everything here in the image. So once again, now we can see through. We have our windows properly laid